Yes, namaskar. Very good evening and a very warm welcome to all the participants for today's great session on the theme of technology and innovation in HR, building the futuristic organizations. Today's event is a very special event because NIPM Delhi NCR chapter is launching its very special initiative called as LEAP, which is about celebration of leadership, empowerment, agility, and people. With this initiative, we aim to celebrate all these different facets of the domain, and take forward this platform as a very vibrant platform to invite people from the industry, people from diverse functions, to for very important conversations which really matters for the industry. So with these words, I would like to formally invite the chairman of NIPM Delhi NCR chapter, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain sir, to kindly give the welcome address for the August gathering. Over to you, Mukesh Jain sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashwant. Namaskar and good evening, friends. I, on behalf of Executive Committee of NIPM Delhi Chapter, Delhi NCR Chapter, welcome you all to this very interesting virtual panel discussion on technology and innovation in HR, building the futuristic organizations by eminent panelists Harini, Sreenivasan, Karthik Sharma, and Harshita Chaudhary, and our own Honorary Secretary and Director Lead, Yashwant Chauhan. Friends, the National Institute of Personnel Management, NIPM, is the apex national body of professional managers engaged in the provision of human resource management, industrial relation, labor welfare, training and development, etc. NIPM came into existence on 15th March 1980 as a result of the merger of two professional institutions, namely the Indian Institute of Personnel Management, IIPM, established in 1948 at Calcutta, and National Institute of Labor Management, NILM, established in 1950 in Mumbai. With its national office at Calcutta, NIPM has a total membership of more than 10,000, which is spread over 53 chapters. To know more about NIPM, kindly log into www.nipm.in. You can enroll yourself as a member of NIPM by paying less than 12,000 rupees for life membership. For eligibility criteria for joining NIPM, please visit nipm.in. Friends, we are delighted to inform you that NIPM Delhi chapter has decided to launch its very special initiative LEAP with a vision to celebrate leadership, empowerment, agility, people. Our goal is to bring together eminent speaker experts across functions on a diverse range of areas within the overall theme of future of HR to foster learning, development, inspiration, leadership, capacity and capability building, and conversation that matters the most. Today's event is very first event under LEAP. I once again welcome our past national presidents and past chapter chairmen, our veteran and seniors, our fellow members and students. I wish you all a great evening and wonderful weekend. Namaskar. Over to Yashwant.
Yes, thank you so much, Mukesh Kumar Jain sir, for sharing your thoughts today. I would now like to invite Dr. G.P. Rao sir. Hello, can we have the slide for Dr. G.P. Rao sir? Hello? Yeah, so Dr. G.P. Rao sir is a very renowned personality from the industry, who is currently the founder, and MD of Good People Relations, HR Consulting LLP. Sir has worked, in varied organizations like SAIL, JK Group, Birlas, Reliance Group in India and Malaysia. He has a master's in commerce, public administration, social work, and business management, and has a degree in law. He has received the honorary PhD. He's a recipient of several awards, And sir has been associated with several, multiple institutions in the industry like Rotary International, Business Network International, Labor Laws Institute, NHRDN, ISTD, NIPM, DMA, and FMA. So, sir holds a huge, experience and a very rich experience altogether. It is my pleasure to invite Dr. GP Rao sir for the inaugural address for the launch of LEAP initiative by NIPM Delhi and such. Over to you, Dr. GP Rao sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Yashwant, for that elaborate liberal introduction. It's all family. So, respected Chairman, Mr. Mukesh Jain, seniors, veterans of NIPM, fellow professionals, and our esteemed panelists and dear friends. The LEAP is an interesting initiative taken by NIPM. You will see that NIPM wants to take up that leadership role in creating, establishing transformational culture in the country, in all organizations. So they we want to develop leaders. So leaders at all levels. So leadership across at an organization level. The other is we believe that we need a structure, we need an organization, we need a format, we need an environment of empowerment where people get the desired direction, desired autonomy, desired support. So that's the second. The third is the distinguishing factor is the agility, whether it emotional agility or physical agility or a mental agility. When it's agility is the call of the day. You have seen in the pandemic, only agile people could survive better. They could navigate better. So agility will be one distinguishing skill. And most important thing is NIPM is for people. We are into the personnel management. Personnel means people employed in service, different services. So we need people and across. So we want to encourage our leaders, entrepreneurs, champions, uh, teachers, researchers, students who are doing good work in leadership, empowerment, agility, and the people area. So we want to bring them to one platform, and we want to conduct series of these programs. So don't worry how many people are here. They are all committed people. You are the people who will help NIPM to make this leap forward. With that, best wishes to all of you. Best wishes for Navaratras. I take pleasure in declaring the LEAP program open. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. GP Rao sir, for your kind words and making people understand about the entire concept. Thank you so much once again for joining in also. Mukesh Jain sir, can you please request now Alok to take it forward?
Alok ji. Alok ji.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Yashwant Chauhan, who is a Senior Manager Group Corporate HR Policy and Employee Relations at GAIL and Honorary Secretary and Director LEAP, NIPM Delhi NCR Chapter. Mr. Chauhan is a passionate business and people leadership professional with over 12 years of impactful group corporate experience in energy and oil and gas sector. An avid learner, speaker, thinker, strategic enabler, youth mentor and capability builder, people and policy advocacy, sustainability, equity and belongingness, enthusiast, collaborator, social influencer, and one of the India's top 100 under 40 future HR leaders. He is a co-opted management committee member and coordinator, Young Leader Series at ISTD Delhi chapter. He has shared his thoughts at prestigious platforms like Standing Conference of Public Enterprises, Directors HR Summit of Oil and Gas, CPSEs held at IIM Indore, TISS Mumbai, IIM Visakhapatnam, and various renowned management institutes of India. A successful experience of delivering on strategic expectations of multiple critical stakeholders while working on significant issues. He's a member Group Corporate COVID Task Force, member Group Corporate COVID Pandemic Management Teams at GAIL. He's member of Cross Industries Future of Work Group, professionally associated with leading national global forums, Indian Society for Training and Development, NIPM, National HRD Network, Society for Human Resource Management, Hacking HR, and All India Management Association, IMA, YLC, etc. Thank you, and over to Mr. Chauhan.
Thank you, Alok, for that elaborate discussion. So kind of you. Let us just move on now to the main part of the event, and we have our great eminent panelists, who deserves all the accolades and the attention of our participants. Can I have the slide for Harini Sreenivasan? Yes. So thank you, everyone, and I have the great pleasure and privilege to introduce our first panel speaker for the day, who happens to be Harini Sreenivasan. She's a partner at Semco Style Institute, India. Harini is a business transformation evangelist, a design thinker, a TEDx speaker. She is a neuroscience enthusiast, behavioral scientist, and adept in unlocking human potential in organizations. Harini has 24 years of successful experiments in the areas of leveraging people, potential for business agility and excellence. She is a very strong believer in driving one's destiny, and she practices resilience as a life skill. She has the positivity and ability to drive engagement with people through her stories, keynotes, talks, which actually helps her to be an influencer both to the industry and academia. So thank you so much, Harini, for being here. I extend a very warm welcome to you. We are indeed grateful to you for your kind association, and we look forward to learn from your experiences. Hello, can we have the next one? Yes, so I now have the pleasure of introducing Harshita Chaudhary, who is a very senior HR business partner. She has worked in various industries, primarily into the FMCG industry and the technology industry. She has worked with companies like Nestle, Freshworks in the past. So Harshita is an HR professional with 13 years of holistic experience in the HR domain. That's her key area. She's a COE expert and a business partner. She has an exposure to diverse industries, as I mentioned earlier, that right from FMCG to technology to SaaS and business environments. Led by her passion of unleashing the potential of each person, she has driven adoption of differentiated approaches in areas of talent management, organization development, learning across her roles. She's extremely passionate about the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and prides herself as an enhancer in this area. So that's really wonderful to know, Harshita. She's a trained coach and psychometric tool assessor. She is always on a journey to invent and reinvent herself. And her most current rendezvous being analytics and how it can facilitate what HR, in her view, should be a trend sensor. So fantastic, interest areas, and it's really inspirational, how you look at, this entire domain of the people function. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Harshita, for being so kind and joining the session today. We look forward to your experiences sharing. Next, we have somebody from a very different domain altogether, and we deliberately wanted to have Mr. Karthik Sharma, who comes from a very different background altogether. Since LEAP is all about cross-functional learnings. And that is why we are having Mr. Kartik coming from the technology domain. Karthik Sharma needs no introduction. He's a co-founder of DcodeAI and founder of Agnitio. He's an emerging technology evangelist, having experience of building disruptive technology products and high-performing product teams. He's an AI practitioner with experience of leveraging machine learning to develop conversational bots and other RPA-related solutions. Karthik has led Agnitio to be part of Commonwealth's first program run by the chairmanship of London, Lord Jonathan Marland. He is a member of All India Parliamentary Group on Artificial Intelligence, UK, whose aim is to explore the impact and implication of artificial intelligence. He is a member of FICCI EdTech Task Force, which focuses on using technology in learning processes in India and enable us, them to frame the policy recommendation that we wish to take to the highest levels of the government. He's a leadership fellow also at prestigious St. George's House Windsor Castle in UK. Kartik is a member of Institute of Directors and student mentor at UK. Kartik is also, I'm very happy to share with you that Kartik is a national chairman of Young Leaders Council at IMA, and he's doing amazing work out there. I happened to, get introduced to this forum very recently. So thankful to Kartik, for that as well. He's also on the board of International School of Artificial Intelligence. And Karthi is also an academic, committee of the AI course for Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University. And the great thing about him is that he has also written, a book on artificial intelligence. That too, for classes like 8, 9, 10th, and 11th. How great is that? So, and I think this work has also been appreciated by none other than Shri Amitabh Kant, CEO of Niti Aayog, Government of India. So, amazing to have you, Kartik. A very warm welcome to you. It is indeed a great pleasure, and we look forward to your key insights, bringing this discussion forward. So, thank you, everyone. So, with this, we come to the end of the introduction. Since today's topic is about technology and innovation in HR, building the futuristic organization. When we thought about it, there were several thoughts which were coming to my mind, that how the recent developments which have happened across the globe, right? Especially post the pandemic, the way the disruption has occurred across the world in various countries, geographies, organizations. So how this entire pandemic has actually brought a sea change in the technology adoption and the imperative need for the organizations to bring an element of HR innovation at work, which can really take us forward, and through that, how we can build the futuristic organizations which can truly leverage all these key areas so as to move towards organizational excellence and making a difference to people's lives at large. So with this, I would just like to go to my panel, the great panel, for their opening remarks. Let's go to Harini first. Harini, I'd like to come to you for your opening, initial thoughts on the theme. Over to you, Harini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yashwantji. And just to, I wanted to bring in a perspective of what is underlying the change that we're talking about, because Karthik is definitely going to talk about the technical aspects, and he being an expert, I don't want to venture into that area, but let me talk to you about my experience on what is it that really drives innovation in HR practices. Technology is definitely an enabler, and I'm a huge advocate of using technology to make our lives easier. But what is more important for HR professionals to understand that when you're talking of innovation, it's not only the technology that makes your organization innovative. You have to build a mindset within HR where you're able to think innovative. And innovation doesn't happen if you conduct an innovation week in your office, and that week there are contests and people come up with great ideas, put it in a box, and then you pick up the best idea. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot that goes in the way you work. There's a lot that goes behind how governance really happens in the organization. So for example, if I look at what happened when the first lockdown started, right? When overnight, when people had to start working from home, when schools started getting into virtual classrooms, in the name of technology, most schools and most organizations just replaced the physical office with a virtual office. I give a benefit of doubt. All of us thought that it's a very, very temporary phase, and we thought that it will work. Initially, there was a euphoria. We were all very high and all of that. But what we did is, in the name of innovation, in the name of just embracing technology, we just replaced it. The 9 to 5 swipe in, swipe out was replaced by 9 to 5 log in, log out. HR practitioners at that time did not think that this is going to be a long phase, and the 9 to 5 log in, log out, sitting in front of a screen, interacting only with people, only using technology, is going to have a very different kind of a bearing on the way your brain works. We didn't think of it because all of us thought it is temporary. But over a period of time, we've started to realize that we probably made a mistake. while we adapted to technology very easily, we learned a lot of these tools. A lot of us learned how to use all kinds of video conferencing tools, but we did not innovate the HR practices. My take on this is, and I don't want to take too much time because this is going to be a very interesting discussion. My take on this is, before we jump into adopting something new or adapting ourselves to the changes, it's also important for us to pause for a moment, take a step back, and reflect on what are the mindset changes we need to do, and what are the other changes that we need to do within ourselves, our processes, and our people. For example, if we had focused on psychological safety first, if we had focused on building trust, maybe we would not have to have had any kind of a monitoring system when people are working remotely. So, point to ponder is mindset change to drive innovation and technology. So these are my opening remarks, and over to the others.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's wonderful, to know your thoughts on this. And you rightly mentioned, the mindset change, which is so critical, for people to drive that digital transformation. I would say. Let me go to Karthik, who comes from a completely different background of technology, and I think he brings in a lot of experience, building all these disruptive products and making it, so useful for multiple people across the disciplines. So, Karthik, just over to you for your initial thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Yashwant ji, and thanks for having me. And thank you, Mukesh ji, for being kind to invite us over. And thanks, Dr. Rao, for your opening remarks. And I would just like to build on to what Harini ji was talking about. But before that, I also wanted to share some data points with you. There was a study which was done, I think, a couple of years back by Oracle around future of workplace. And they did a survey with some of the largest companies around the world in terms of technology adoption. And when we talk about technology, we are looking at majorly emerging technology, right? Like AI, using things like natural language processing, computer vision, because basic automation in HR has already been there. I mean, I think payroll processing was the first process to be automated when the BPO market hit. So I think that automation we're all aware of. But when we talk about things like AI in HR, I mean, that survey brought in some very interesting points, which I wanted to share with all of you to set the context. So almost 64% people who participated in that survey said that they would trust AI-enabled bot more than their manager or a HR head for advice, right? Around 50% of the employees who participated in the survey said that they are already using AI in some shape or the form already, and by 2030, that number is projected to be around 90%. And also the third data point was almost 65% of employees were actually more optimistic and excited to having to work with a bot-enabled co-worker rather than the human being who brings in their own set of biases and politics and whatnot. We're all aware of in HR fraternity, right? And that's the advantage of using technology as well, right? But before we get into how technology would actually disrupt and how these numbers would increase, tend more towards 90-95%, I think the other point to be imagined is how the workplace is going to look like in future. So Harini talked about how pandemic hit and changed the nature of the workplace. But I think if we look at the future of workplace, there are 4-5 key elements which I want to share, and that sets the base in context of these numbers, that how to reimagine technology or digital transformation in HR. One is, of course, this whole debate of whether remote working is going to stay or not. My personal view is that it will be remote working for certain roles and functions, because as organizations, we've all seen, we all run businesses here, that there are certain roles which we thought required people to be in office, but now we have come to our senses and realized that we could do away with those roles still being remote. But definitely there are certain roles and jobs for which people want their employees to be back in the office. And we have seen how 180-degree turn has been done by large MNCs who earlier said that we will be remote till next 5 years forever and whatnot. And now after double vaccination, everybody has made a big U-turn and everybody is called back to office. So that's fine. So I think it will be a role-based remote working. It will not be a blanket remote working for everyone. So that's the first change which will happen. Second is there's a bigger focus on gig working. So even in technology industry, the way in which I work, and even some of the other industries I'm aware of, there is even in education, like if you look at schools, colleges, there is a big focus on hiring on demand, on contract, flexible arrangements with potential employees. And that's something which is very unique, right? Nobody is now expecting people. Harini talked about the whole concept of 9 to 5. I think it's on top of that, nobody's even expecting employees to be working with them full time for a certain number of hours. It's all task based, outcome based. And for that, you get a certain amount of payment. And I think Bollywood industry has completely mastered this model over the years. And it's a matter of time when all other industries would catch up to this, right? And third is that there is the notion of a fixed career is also changing now. And if you take up any industry, because of technology, since the role is getting so changed, if you talk about in HR, something like a talent acquisition, back in the day, you would have people who are only into, talent acquisition, only within recruitments, only into sourcing, only into search, that kind of niche roles were there. But now because technology and AI is going to take up a lot of those roles, because even JD creation and matching with keywords is all done in an automated manner using RPA, you would have people take up more and more sort of multiple hats within a horizontal as well. Like if I talk about in technology, we used to have front-end developers, back-end developers, DevOps engineers, but now everybody wants to hire a full stack developer. So that developer needs to know everything from back-end, front-end to database to server side and DevOps, which is a huge shift. And this has happened only in less than 10 years, mind you. Like when I graduated 15 years back, in IITs also placements used to be like this. Are you a back-end dev or a front-end developer? But now almost every company is asking for a full stack developer. So there is no concept of fixed careers. And there was a study done by OPEC, I think, which said that an average person now who's graduating will change their jobs around 9 to 10 times in their span. And this number was 5 in 2010. So I think that's the third key metric, that the concept of fixed careers is changing. And last is the expectation of people to be co-working with technology. When I say technology, I'm talking about, again, emerging technologies like AI. You have to reimagine a workplace, which is already happening in parts of the world like South Korea, wherein you have proper bots who are your co-workers in office, physically, digitally, they have been always there. So I think that's the fourth point. So remote working, gig working, no fixed careers, and co-working with AI is the fourth trend. And the last point I wanted to touch upon is, I know it's a opening remark, is that the whole concept of people being able to understand that their role is getting changed. So there are two options, right? If I'm in HR, whether I'm in performance management, L&D or talent acquisition, I need to reimagine my role with AI and technology now, that how my role is going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, it will become very tricky, because again, since I'm a data person, there was a study done by OECD which talked about that almost 55% of job roles would get completely changed by 2030. And in UK, for example, they've already started reaching out to large companies like Standard Bank, Barclays, and FinTech is big in UK. And they're asking them, what's your reskilling plan? Don't you dare come 2030 and you say that, oh, we are laying off 30% of workforce because they are redundant, everything is done by technology. You need to now give us a plan that how are you going to reskill and upskill your resources, keeping in view that their roles are getting changed by 2030. So I think that kind of reskilling program needs to be in place by us as organizations. Forget in UK, the country is doing it as the government, but as company, as our department, and on a more granular level as an individual, I need to plan my career that in next 3 to 4 years, AI is coming. It's the writing on the wall. My role is going to get completely changed. What can I do still to be relevant and not be caught unplanned and unguarded? So I think that's the third area I would want to touch upon maybe in subsequent questions. Thanks, Yashwant.
Yeah, wonderful, Karthik. Great insights on the data points and also about the remote working, the gig working, the co-working. It's fantastic. On that, definitely it is going to impact in a huge way. Let me just go back to now Harshita Chaudhary, who has actually worked in the startups and also in the FMCG industry as well. So it will be very interesting to understand her perspective, initial remarks on this. Over to you, Harshita.
Sure. Thank you so much, Yashwant, and thank you for having me. I think a lot of you may not know Yashwant and I are from the same institute. So there's a lot of connection when I talk to him today. So I think thank you so much, Harini and Karthik, for giving those remarks. I think that's wonderful to, and especially Karthik, I was very excited to hear that you're on the panel, because I always thought that we kind of look at a few things from our perspective, but we'd be good to look at to someone who's developing it, and from his perspective, how does he see trends, right? So for me, I think before I'll talk about technology, and I've said this and Harini's heard this from me earlier, that I'm kind of a convert to this. I was one of those HRs who was to a fair extent very close to it, and specifically the AI and the ML piece of it. I kind of didn't figure it out when I heard about it about 4 years ago when we started experimenting with it. So I'm kind of a convert, and I'll talk about that journey a little bit to you. But for me, I think more than technology, it's innovation, right? HR has been talking about innovation for years together, right? And we know it is important. We know it is needed. But somewhere in the humdrum of just doing HR the way we've learned it, we've kind of put it on the back burner, you know. But come 2019 or 2020 for that matter, we all got pushed to the corner to say, this is time, right? And when we started looking at everything that we had to do, and we had to do it differently, right? Whether we had to talk to people differently, we had to connect to folks differently, we had to train our managers differently. Think of anything, we had to be innovative, right? And innovation, which was supposed to build as a muscle over a period of time, had to be built in a very short time, right? And it was just not just, you know, learning to innovate, but it was learning to innovate faster, right? And I think at that point in time, a lot of us realized the real power of technology, right? We've known it, we've experimented with it, but I think in the last 2 years, the power that it can bring in helping us innovate in a certain situation, and then also looking at technology as that, I'm picking up from what Karthik said, because this is how I look at an AI or an ML, or I'm sorry, I'm blanketly using this technology, is as a very non-biased and intelligent partner for HR, right? In everything that we do today, because that's a partner which is going to help you innovate faster, which is the need of the hour. HR cannot anymore kind of put it at the back burner and do it. So that's my view on just innovation and technology. As I said, I'm a total convert to AI and ML in specific, because I feel that the whole piece that Harini also alluded to, which is about psychological safety, and, you know, the data point that Karthik provided, somewhere, you know, we can't take away that we are all humans, and we do think, okay, if I'm speaking, what is Harini right now thinking about me, right? I can't take that away from my mind. But when you're talking to something which sort of learns from you, responds to you, you're not constantly thinking as a machine, thinking, how I'm looking, what I'm saying, is it making words, you know, meanings out of my words, right? You're not, kind of not thinking about it, right? So I think that's a big strength that it brings in. And as Karthik would know, that has, you know, extensions in a number of things that HR does, from engagement, from attrition, from this, from that, a lot of things, right? So that's a lot of power with HR today to be able to innovate. The other thing is, HR has been talking for 100 years about employee experience, right? That seems to have become like one of the biggest things that we talk about today. But imagine, and I heard Harini in one of the earlier forums where she spoke about a story. Imagine technology allows you to delight within that experience. You will not be able to imagine what preferences that person may have, what that person may like. But technology will give you all that data to delight in an employee experience, right? So for me, technology is that intelligent partner, right? Of course, that partner learns with us, from us. So we have to be more conscious about what we are training and teaching our partner with us. But that's the strength it brings. And the last thing I would say is that, again, technology, if you think about our strategies of HR, if I can think about my documents, say about 4 or 5 years ago, what I saw in organization, to say, 5 years ago, technology used to be this line in the bottom, you know, which used to be kind of an enabler, right? So you write enablers for strategy, you write technology over there. Today, technology sits as a strategic pillar within HR strategy, right? Because that's the power it has brought in, right? We can no more kind of not look at it, right? So not look at it, rather we have to lap onto it as fast as we can, right? So that's been my experience. And through FMCG, through anything that I talk about, there are organizations like some of them that I've worked, which are technology stacks, etc. But at the end of the day, it's the HR mindset which is going to make it which is going to really leverage it and put it to the right use. So I think adding to Harini's mindset, I would say HR people have to look at their own mindset and their own agility to kind of make use of their partner. So that's what I would leave it at.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Harshita. Wonderful points. I think you talked about innovation part. So I think that brings me to the area of, design thinking. Do you think, that the design thinking, the entire concept of design thinking can be applied, to enhance that experience from the technology and also to come up with innovation which really impacts the people on the ground? I think, for this, I would request Harini to, start with, and others can always pitch in between wherever you feel like. Thank you.
Yeah. So design thinking, for some reason, the moment we talk of design, we think of a product. But if you actually focus on Tim Brown, the CEO of IDEO, if you focus on his definition of design thinking, it's one of the best I've seen. He represents it by way of a simple Venn diagram, where he talks of the people's desirability, the business feasibility, and business viability, and the technological feasibility. And he says an intersection of these three circles in the Venn diagram is where innovation really happens, right? So which means design thinking, if you look at a problem statement from the user's perspective, that's what we do. We put ourselves as different personas. When you look at it from a user's perspective, and when you try to address the problem statement so that you're also taking care of the business viability, and to it you add in technological feasibility, definitely design thinking is something which has to be put to use and can be put to use for coming up with innovative HR practices. It need not be for products. It need not be for coming up with HR systems. Simple HR ways of working. Okay, I'll give you an example. It was one of my favorites, and it's been a rage in the fraternity. Is we spoke about the need for paternity leave in India. A lot of organizations said the US is giving 30 days, 40 days, and we also need it. So the people came up with the desire saying paternity leave is a must. Okay, it looked very attractive, 30 days. Business was saying that we cannot have people randomly taking 30 days of leave throughout the year, because we have our average population is in the reproductive age. It's going to be terrible. It's going to impact the business continuity. Technology can easily manage. You can administratively manage all of that. Now, a design thinker actually came up with this idea. A design thinker in HR came up with this idea. I happened to be part of that group, and we came up with this idea that 30 days of paternity leave, why don't you spread it across 5 years from the time the child is born, right? In India, the context is different. The mother-in-law, support system, everything is possible. Now, with that, what is the role of the father in the first 30 days when the child is born? Hardly anything. Now, look at it from the father's perspective. Every vaccination, the father would love to go. Vaccination happens till 5 years of age. First day of school, the father would definitely love to see the child walk into the school. First day of sports, first annual day, first examination, whatever happens within 5 years, the father misses that or takes a day off from his earned leave, casually, whatever, and attends that event. Rather, why don't we have paternity leave, which is 30 days or 45 days, but spread over 5 years? Now, technology will definitely help us. If you have an ERP, which can track, you just enter the date of birth of your dependent child, and it will automatically tell you whether you are eligible for the paternity leave. And any leave you take in those 5 years under paternity leave will not be loss of a day of casual leave or your earned leave. Now, how beautiful is that? Now, this is design thinking application in HR. A policy was designed using design thinking application. This has got people's desirability, it's got business viability, it's got technological feasibility, and bang, you have innovation, right? So if this can be done with one policy, I think if we look back and review all our HR policies, looking at it from the intent and not the content. When maternity leave benefits, the act was amended, we all looked at the content and we said, okay, creche should be there within the campus, 1 kilometer radius, blah, blah, blah. But in cities like Mumbai, it is practically not doable. So look at the intent and not the content, and apply a designer's view and see what you can do so that you're on the right side of compliance, and also you're helping and making it feasible for people. So design thinking in HR, definitely possible. I have a classic example, which I just said, and there can be many more. You're on mute, Yashwant.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Harini, for a great perspective on the design thinking. And absolutely, I think it is so imperative to apply those principles of design thinking, of having that empathy for people, right? The understanding the real issues of the people, defining them, and coming up with the solutions which can actually bring in the transformational change. So Kartik, I think you may like to add on to that. You have any perspective on that? From your experience.
And a brilliant example, Harini ji. I'm definitely gonna lap onto it and use in my organization as well. Great thought, really. I'm sure a lot of people who attended this would have really caught on to this idea. So thanks for sharing that first thing first. But I think as Yashwant ji talked about, to me, and you're right. Most of us from tech background look at it more from a product development perspective, and whenever we talk about design thinking. But I think it's also about orchestrating or architecturing an experience for the end user as well, with empathy in mind. And I see this a lot of time happening in the technology world, because a lot of companies I've worked with over the years, some CHRO would have heard certain tool being implemented in an organization in some part of the world, and he or she would be like, okay, let's also implement this, without really figuring out if it really suits their industry, their context, their demographic, or not, right? And I think that's really critical. And rarely as technology people, I've seen organizations involving tech folks in a design thinking format at the user empathy level. They would really involve us at a prototyping stage or MVP, saying that, oh, we have understood the user requirements, we have done our bit of user survey, and this is what we feel that users want. And can you create a product out of it, or can you just deploy a ready-made solution to force fit it? And the examples around it are immense. If I talk about technology standpoint, I mean, chatbots, which is such a saturated tool which people use for employee engagement in many industries, in many formats, it's actually a bit of a overkill or a pain to constantly ask for feedback. I mean, even in terms of frequency of feedback, it varies so much in different job roles and different industries. Just doing a blanket initiative of capturing micro feedback using a chatbot who's constantly pinging you, I mean, it actually may irritate the users more, right? Especially if, let's say, you are in a industry of, let's say, healthcare, and you are into telemedicine, and you're handling critical care, and here is a chatbot who's pinging you for feedback. So I think it's very important to understand that any technology which is intended to transform your experience, you have to figure out if it works in your context, if your users really care for it. It's not that as a CHRO or a CTO, I care for it, or it's a great thing that would look good, that if I've implemented it, I can do a PR on it, that I've implemented a certain technology. But will it really solve your end users' problem, and will they care about it? And does it really make their life better, or does it make your life better as a CTO or a CHRO? So I think that differentiation we really need to make. And I've seen a lot of startups do that, because they are more close to their people, unlike some of the larger organizations, where it becomes so difficult for whether it's HR or whether it's managers. It's very difficult for them to have a sense of on the ground pulse of the employees. That what do they? I mean, I think you were mentioning somewhere Harshita worked in Nestle. I also worked in Nestle, Harshita, many years ago. And I remember when we used to have this conversation of people in factories having a view that, okay, in HO, people do not understand what it is to be on a shop floor in the night shift, and the kind of problems we have to cater to. It's hard to make policies or implement a solution sitting in boardrooms in Gurgaon. And I think although it's a emotional sentiment, but there is a iota of truth in it as well, right? We really have to really understand the situation on the ground and involve those users in design thinking as well, rather than trying to decide what's good for them without understanding the context really. So I would really love to see more organizations adopt design thinking and involve a broader set of stakeholders in decision making while doing the design thing.
Yes, thank you. Harshita, you have any perspective to share on that?
So I think fantastic what Harini and Kartik have already spoken. I'll just share a couple of just very simple examples that I have seen. So one of the things about design thinking that I really love, or I think has really pushed us in HR, is about this whole thing of trying something. Design thinking also says, okay, if you figured an idea, just go ahead and try it, right? So I've seen pockets where we've said, okay, let's try and test it with a smaller group, see if it works, and let's scale. Let's at least try, right? And the second thing, to what Kartik mentioned, that a lot of times technology in specific, when people think about whether it's any performance management tool or any tool that we are putting forward, I think one of the things that we forget is, where is the user in the journey of technology, right? Sometimes we even forget that, I'm going to put this fantastic looking thing out there and, it's going to do everything like magic, but are my people going to be able to even use it, right? Am I providing enough bandwidth even at home to use that kind of, platform, right? What's been the journey of my people in the organization of experimenting with this kind of technology? So I think, and the fact that today we talk about giving employees a consumer grade experience, we want to do it, we need to look at them as consumers, and design thinking is a perfect way to kind of be able to do that. So I think I'm kind of a total believer to do that. I've done a little bit here and there, but yeah, experimenting with it myself. So.
Thank you. So wonderful insights on the design thinking part. So that brings me to a very interesting perspective about the productivity part of the entire technology and innovation, right? How it actually enhances the productivity in the organization, how it makes the organization much more efficient and effective, and what are the challenges on that account. Kartik would like to share maybe some of the challenges which are absolutely critical to ensure that we completely eradicate the gaps on that account and move forward to the organizational efficiency and effectiveness as a whole.
Sure. I mean, one example comes to my mind, which is a very recent discussion I was having with my IT guy. So we implemented a software called Desk Time, which keeps a track on productivity of employees, and it captures the screenshot, and it makes sure that, are you using productive apps, non-productive apps? It captures every moment of your time you spent on your device. Now, the productive time is calculated with the theory that if you're using a productive app, which is, let's say, all the apps minus social media, news, banking, and if you have it working and your keyboard is getting pressed, so the idea is that you're kind of working, right? But what happens is, a lot of people, especially in technology, they would put a small vibrator thingy on your mouse pad, and it gives the effect that the keyboards are getting pressed, and it will show it's a productive app. So yeah, then you have to investigate into the screenshots and see if in the screenshot the line of code is increasing or not. Even if it's not increasing, somebody might give you an argument saying, oh, I was thinking, I was researching, I was analyzing the problem, or I was on a call. Then you have to figure out from call records or their Zoom meetings that were they actually on a Zoom invite or not. So I think with technology, a lot of people also try to re-engineer many of these things and try to reverse engineer, actually is the better word. But I think it's a constant tussle, because with time, your demographic will also try to, it's a human reaction, right? I mean, more processes, more monitoring tools you would put, they would try to, figure a way out, because by default, let's be honest, everybody wants to work less and earn more. I mean, everybody wants to maximize their efficiency function. That's how we have evolved as human beings, right? We want to minimize the input, maximize the output. So I think with that thought in mind, we have to retailor some of the technology initiatives. I mean, if you take about any process, Yashwantji, like even if you talk about something like attendance, right? I mean, it started with a punch in, punch out. People mess that up and put oil on their fingers and whatnot. I have seen in factories, right? Oh, the machine is broken. And what do we do? Then there is a queuing problem. Then I remember I implemented 10 years back RFID solution, which was UHF-RS. Then you don't even need to tap like a MyFair card. It will just track from a distance. Then people will try to, give their card and put it somebody else's pocket. They try to game the system. Then you had to put a body thermal sensor in conjunction with an RFID. So you have to see that there are two cards, but there are also two bodies passing through the sensor. They game that as well. Now, there's a idea of in remote working, you can use computer vision in the camera that you have to figure out that if somebody is actually attending a session or it's just their static photo, which is not moving. Some people put GIFs also as their photo. So you would think that they are doing a little bit of this, that, but they're actually not attending. I think Harini is really having a laugh over that. But these are all true examples. Like I'm not making them up. These are like real issues we face every day. And people constantly try to counter it the moment you're trying to pin on their productivity levels. And I think we have to use more and more technology to figure out. I know a lot of companies also tried to use computer vision in AI to track harassment at workplace. They tried to use NLP-enabled sentiment analysis in the mail trail. Because what happens is a lot of the times in mail communication or in Slack or project management tools, people would use certain slangs or certain words which might appear inappropriate, but unless you have a proper trail of records or an audit trail, it's very difficult to figure out if it constitutes harassment or not. So bringing in certain innovations like that can also help in processes in learning and development. A lot of people try to cheat when you talk about completing certain. I remember I was in Deloitte and we used to have this ethics as a course, and everybody would just cheat on it because it's such a important course, let's say, but also the most dull one, because they will give you such complicated situation that your wife has accepted a gift from the wife of a client at a neutral party. What should be done? So like by default answer would be not accept anything. So a lot of people would outsource that to their smarter friends. So I think technology has actually upped the game in terms of tracking productivity, because if you do a comparison 10-15 years back, I think we are in much better control. Like I can talk about from my perspective as a line manager or as a leader, I think I have better visibility now on productivity. But then of course the confidence interval on that productivity keeps wavering because these new counter innovations keep coming in by the employees. So you need to constantly, but I think it's good also because that keeps you on your toes to make sure that you're innovating and keeping a track. But I think visibility part is sorted now, but it's about making sure the authenticity of that data and because a lot of leaders I have seen as a vendor to a lot of HR leaders or industry leaders, they are happy with just the dashboards and visualization. They feel that half the battle is won if they have a nice dashboard. But beyond that dashboard, what actually constituting the numbers which are constituting in that dashboard, making sure that they are authentic and there is no variances in it. I think that's a job which is still unfinished, and we need to figure a way out to fix it.
I have to cut in here. I have to cut in here. One is I was laughing my heart out because all these examples that Karthik rattled, I have seen them all. And it used to amuse me because business leaders, somewhere we forgot what is it that we have to measure. I think if we start using technology to measure productivity, which is what we want to measure, that's way too different from measuring the hours the person spends at the desk, right? We started focusing on how much time a person spends at the desk by putting those controls in place. And what happens when you put controls, and now I'm speaking from wearing my behavioral scientist hat, is when you start putting controls on people, you create rebels. So we created a lot of rebels who came up with ideas and jugaads that started outsmarting the systems. So instead of using technology to measure and control the numbers of hours on the seat, I think if we use technology to measure productivity by whatsoever way, and keep on showing people that this is how productivity is progressing, and you are accountable for it. So when people start noticing that the health of the business is dipping and they are made to feel accountable for it, I think none of these controls is required and people will come forward and contribute. The problem is we treat adults as adolescents the moment they come into the workplace. And that's where the problem is. And I'm also a strong advocate of millennials, though I'm not of that generation, but I do resonate with them. The problems that millennials really talk about is, we are adults. You already told us you're grown up, manage your stuff. We have been independent in campus. The moment we come into the corporate world, you again treat us as adolescents, and that's not fair. I think when we don't know what to measure, okay, and we measure the wrong thing, we are creating rebels. Sorry for butting in, but I just couldn't stop myself here.
Oh, great, Harini. I think thank you for the wonderful insight, and Karthik, beautiful examples on the productivity part. Harshita, you have anything to put on there?
No, I completely agree to Harini, because whenever this whole thing about tracking people's hours and all comes, I kind of cringe. Okay, for me, it is very conflicting as an HR person, because I'm talking about putting faith in people and faith in their capability and accountability and stuff like that. At one end, our culture kind of talks about that in most of the organization. And on the other hand, I say, okay, I'm going to kind of track how many hours you're going to put into your laptop. Now, that's nearly not going to help. So I actually cringe when this kind of thing comes in. And I think in my experience, the organizations that I have experienced or seen are realizing what Harini is saying, is that I think it's important for people to just put that faith in people. People are not going to come to office, right? You're not going to be able to monitor them. Just put your faith in people, make them accountable, responsible, a part of everything that you do, right? So when people talk about, goals trickling down, we talk about OKRs, we talk about collaborative goals, we talk about stuff like that. So let's make people accountable and supported. And for me, one of the things around productivity, as Harini also mentioned, is about why don't we use technology to give people a better view about what's happening, what results are coming in, how are they, contributing to what they're doing, collaborative tools, collaborative dashboards and stuff like that. So let's kind of use technology in that frame of productivity rather than this frame, because this frame will break one or the other way, right? We are not going to be sustaining it. So for me, I think it's about faith in our people and responsibility, accountability with support that technology can provide, right? And then that's what I kind of talk. So anything around collaborative goals, anything around visibility of goals, anything around visibility of results, I think that's what technology should be used from a productivity standpoint, is what I really think.
Yes, thank you, Harshita, for bringing that up. Though we have a very less time, but I'll quickly move on to a very important theme on this. That the technology and innovation is definitely happening, right? So we are moving towards a very high-tech kind of environment, right? Wherein everything is going to be powered by AI and IoTs and 5Gs, right? So all that kind of environment. But on the other hand, you have high touch, right? Which is also very important. So how do you think that this entire digital transformation journey and the human evolution journey, right? The human inner potential, how that is going to collaborate together, and what are the really the nerve-wracking challenges out there, and how we as HR professionals or as fraternity or the professionals at large can understand and deliver on those real challenges. Over to you, Harini. I think coming from your behavioral perspective, I would definitely love to hear your insights on that. Thank you.
So while technology is there and it's a great thing, we need to know how to balance and we need to understand what do we mean by high touch in a world of high tech. High touch is not just staying connected with people. Okay, we are doing everything virtually now. So high touch is every morning I do a stand-up meeting virtually. That is not enough. High touch is way beyond it. I would say managers need to recontract their roles as coaches, right? So when I'm saying I'm practicing high touch, I'm also saying that as a manager, do I give a psychologically safe space for my team to operate? Am I actually, breathing down their back, even through virtual calls? Like, okay, we have a stand-up meeting. once the meeting is over, everyone now and then, am I sending them a WhatsApp message saying, what is the status? Or am I just telling them that keep me posted if you are in trouble? I'm always just a call away. And you know what you're supposed to do, supposed to complete and deliver, and I'm sure you'll do it. Are you giving them that psychological safety, the freedom? Are you giving them a safe space to speak up without fear of consequence? Are you giving your teams to experiment without fear of failure? I think these are all aspects which are actually high touch. High touch is not just asking, check-in questions periodically. It's not just forcing people to come on a video call every morning for 5 minutes. It's way beyond that. It's way beyond that. I may not be comfortable coming on a video call every morning, but if my manager gives me the feeling that I am in control of my deliverables, I would say that is high touch, because my manager completely believes in me, believes in my potential. I know for a fact that the moment there is something which has been given to me, it is the entire accountability is mine. I know what I'm accountable for. My manager is aware of it. I'm free to experiment as long as I don't cause the business any harm. If that understanding is there, I think for me, that is the biggest starting point of high touch. If that happens, if we start believing that every individual has immense potential and everyone does not misuse freedom, if we start believing in these two things, I think with technology, it won't take us much time to really become one of the best nations in the world. It's this feeling that there could be somebody who will misuse, and therefore let's put a control in place, which is damaging. So touch should be touch, and touch should not be strangling the neck.
Wonderful, wonderful. Karthik, would like to share something on this?
No, I was just reminiscing some of my recent experiences, which are a bit counter to what Harini is saying. See, I understand on a sort of, I don't know what's the politically correct word, but in principle and philosophically, I completely relate to what Harini says and what Harshita is trying to say. But the reality of the world we live in, the demographic we work with, it's slightly different, right? And in certain industries, it's all the more easy to see. I mean, human psychology, I am all for trusting in people, believing in people. But the issue is, especially in our country, because of our legacy and the whole mindset we have of, see, there's a good thing about us that we are very open to jugaad and doing some things quickly. But at the same time, most of the employees who work with us in most of our organizations, they're all very opportunistic as well. So the issue in that construct is whenever they see an opportunity to tap onto a leakage, there is a high propensity for them to leverage that. So what that means in a layman's word is, let's say if I am a developer and I'm working in your company, right? And the company has empowered me, completely believes in me, and everything is good, right? But I see a simple opportunity that I am earning 1 lakh rupees a month working for you. I can parallelly log on to a laptop and I can work for another company and I can earn 1 lakh rupees a month more. So that feeling of to be able to earn 2 lakh rupees a month by just slightly skirting or flirting with the line of code of conduct, that doesn't bother most of the people in our country. That's the harsh reality. They are committed to you, they are loyal to you, but they see there's an opportunity to make 2x by just tinkering a little bit with the value system. That doesn't bother most of the people. And I forget 1 lakh. I mean, I've had people who are earning 3 lakh rupees a month, and they see an opportunity to earn 5-6 lakhs a month by just bending things a little bit. And I think that's also got to do a lot with that. A lot of these younger demographics are seeing this kind of money for the first time, especially if I talk about the technology industry. I mean, never have before in any industry a 25 or a 26-year-old could make 5-6 lakhs rupees a month. Now, if you're a good developer, you can work 2-3 jobs, and thanks to gig working and what I was talking about earlier, a 25-26-year-old today can make 5-6 lakh rupees a month. easy peasy by just not adhering to the belief system which Harini is talking about. So that really makes it very difficult for you to maintain your moral compass when you see that there is a disproportionate return which you can earn by not subscribing to the righteous path. So I think that then triggers organizations to put in systems to monitor such misuse or people crossing the line of sorts and making sure that they are not being taken for a ride. And then that creates a mistrust in the employee, and then they start to look at other options more seriously. So it's kind of a vicious circle. And I think that is true in most of business setups in our country, that there is a mistrust vicious cycle which keeps on going. I mean, if you look at any industry, right? And that's the core problem, that employees do something messy, then as an organization, you don't trust them. Then that monitoring mechanism makes them feel you don't trust them, and then they'll do something else. And this keeps keeps going on. So I personally feel that there is, you should have some bits of monitoring mechanisms in place. I mean, look at a simple, example from daily life, right? Like, why do you need a policeman on the road, right? Why do you need red lights? Like, people should just stop their car if they see a certain flow of traffic in a certain direction. And we should empower and trust in our people, right? That they will figure it out when to stop. I mean, India is the only country where you have red lights on this circular getaway, right? I mean, nowhere in the world you will see on a goal chakkar a red light. India is the only country where you have to put, because people don't even stop there. It's just so logical to figure out and make an exit and entry. So I think we have to be realistic about the demographics we operate in. And maybe it will take a generation or two for us to get there, where everybody is well off, everybody is well educated, there is a better sense of, better civic sense overall. And I think all these sectors lead into each other, wherein a society of trust establishes, which we see in a lot of Scandinavian countries or Western countries, wherein the whole society works on trust. You can keep your car open, you can keep your house open, nobody will enter even for 5 days, right? You can't do that in our country, and there is a reason. And you can't expect the person who cannot do that in his daily life can be trusted and believed in work life, because as an organization you should believe in him or her, right? It doesn't work that way. It percolates into your entire life, and as a society, when that trust is not there, it's very hard for us as an organization to impose that high level of trust, because I mean, we live in the same society, so we have to operate by certain rules. So that's my view, slightly counterintuitive to you, Harini, but that's what I have faced, and I feel that we are still way off from operating in a setup wherein we can completely trust our employees, they'll believe in our vision and mission. I feel we are a bit way off from that utopian world. That's my view.
Yeah, thank you, Karthik, for sharing those insights. And you talked about that traffic light, example, right? So I think there's a concept of negotiated boundaries, which is, I think, largely operated in India, right? So people somehow, manages to, to negotiate those serious boundaries and still, come out of that, right? So that's not a right note. So I think, with this, I think I would like to now go back to the audience. I think that there are very senior people who are in the call. There's a question from Dr. Bandwidth, who is asking, can you please, cite certain examples of the, technology applications, specifically the AI part, in the HR world, number one. And the second question he's asking about is, can you talk from the industry 4.0 to 5.0? To society 5.0. That's what he is talking about. So there are two questions. So I think anybody can take that. Harshita, would you like to take that?
I'd love to talk about the first part of it.
Sure.
But before that, if I could take like 30 seconds to just say something to what Karthik was mentioning. So
yes, please.
Karthik, the only thing is that nobody is telling organizations to be blind and not know that there are human beings working with them. And there is a sense of what they're accountable for that needs to be tracked. But what we are trying to say is that if we start tracking it, we're going to make the propensity of getting out of line much more, right? That's the only difference, and that's the only line as HR people we walk on, right? And a debate on what happens in other countries, I think we can kind of do it very, very long. But yeah, but that's just something that I wanted to tell you. None of the organizations are blind. I've had experiences in other companies where people have kind of crossed boundaries and worked in other organizations, and then we've kind of, companies been able to track it, whether it's technology, whether it's people knowing, whether it's word of mouth, right? So that's something I wanted to just mention. Coming to the first part of the question, Yashwant, I think AI has just kind of disrupted every part of HR. I think there is applicability in everything that we do. I think I see a couple of big ones over there. One is around engagement, right? And when I talk about engagement, I'm not just talking about the engagement surveys, which have become easier, faster, non-biased, data gets churned quickly, and, you can make insights and stuff like that. But I'm also talking about engagement surveys, which, as Karthik had mentioned in one of his conversations, that can be done at different life cycles of a person, right? You're not just waiting for an engagement survey to happen annually, but you can do it for early attrition, you can do it for high potential, you can do so many things with AI and just a chat bot talking to people, because again, the psychological safety bit kind of exists with them where people can be open. The second one I see AI, and I think it's really disrupting, is learning and development, or for that matter, even coaching, right? Today, a bot can be a coach, and it can keep throwing stuff at you, giving you things to learn and stuff like that. I think L&D is the other space where AI is really disrupting it, because it's fun for a system to throw you what you would like to learn, the way you'd like to learn, at the pace you'd like to learn, right? So just so much fun that someone can do that for you, right? So I think just there, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's just the algorithm, and I think the third bit is HR's ability to look at data and insights. I know only one that I've used it or known is Power BI. I think just the amount of stuff that Power BI throws, from saying, one of the latest things I heard was that, it can kind of tell you why a trend has changed. So it look at 5 other data points and tell you, okay, this is why a trend has changed, right? And you don't need to really have to do anything, right? So I think on those 3 areas where HR used to be a little short-handed at looking at data and making insights, I feel that's a huge space where AI has really entered and supported us and partnered with us, as I would say. Those are 3 things for me.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would also like to, ask maybe in the audience, if anybody has, a live question to ask the panel. So I will, you can just unmute yourself.
Yashwantji, if I may
yes,
share,
please.
although I'm in HR, I think from entire, what is it called, hire to retire or acquire to exit sort of process by the book, I think in all stages, AI can be used. But I think one of the interesting areas where I've seen a lot of people experiment it is in the whole performance management part, so like performance appraisal. I mean, in most of the organization, it's pretty archaic, right? I mean, after 1 year, you are asked to list down your achievements, again a set of questionnaire. You might forget, your manager would forget, and whatever, right? Call it 180, 360. That entire set of people have changed, who were at the start of the year or mid of the year. So I think if using AI, you are able to constantly track somebody's, maybe track is a wrong word, Harshita and Harini won't like, but maybe able to assess and trace their performance over the entire year, and consolidate those micro events, right? Because it's not about you have to do something monumental in a year to be appraised, right? You might be delighting your customer or your stakeholders on a micro transaction level, but nobody's probably noticing it. Nobody has the time to sort of figure that out that you're doing it. But if you're able to consolidate those data points on a micro level, I think that would help in making the whole performance appraisal process very exhaustive, very contextual, and very unbiased. Because otherwise, what happens is, like, call me a layman, but I mean, hand on heart, if you've done something great in last 1-2 months, I would remember that you are a good guy or girl, and I do something good for you. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't remember, maybe give 10%, 12%. It's arbitrary, right, in most of the organizations. But if you're able to create a more structure around this whole process, it will give more confidence to the employees that, you know, there is a method to madness. It's not dependent on what Karthik or Harini or whatever the stakeholders in the organization are doing. It's a process. Everything you do on a daily basis is being captured, is part of your appraisal process, and it's very unbiased. It's data driven. So I think that would have a more trust in the appraisal process. And we know that this has a direct bearing to attrition and retention. I mean, maximum acquisition in some other organization and attrition in your organization happens post appraisal. So I think that would be another use case.
I'll give another example of where I actually put AI to use as an experiment with some interns. We were facing a situation where we had a lot of resistance to travel overseas, especially oil and gas projects. So Yashwant, you would know how people sometimes hate going, especially on offshore projects because of the health hazard. So it was a challenge. Now we got a chatbot to actually have a lot of those conversations. This chatbot was made by a student intern. We got a lot of those pre-departure conversations happening, and we were able to come out with a lot of predictive analytics. So I think in the space of HR analytics, be it attrition, be it absenteeism, be it employee behavior, be it wanting to come up with different kinds of policies to change certain behavior for improvement in the business. I think to move from reporting analytics, which is at the bottom of the business value chain, if HR has to move to predictive and prescriptive analytics, I think artificial intelligence plays a huge role. So if you're talking about HR really, getting a place at the higher end of the business value chain, using analytics, definitely artificial intelligence plays a role. I tried it as a small experiment and it gave immensely useful results for predictive analytics. So that was another example of an application.
Yes, thank you so much, Harini, for those insights. Let's take a quick, another question from one of our participants who happens to be Chandrasekharji. Chandrasekharji would like to ask a live question. You raise your hand. Can you please unmute yourself and ask the question? Thank you. Chandrasekharji.
Audible, sir? Yeah.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Sir, when I using the quantitative research, I always face the problem of APA style formats. Is it any essential skill which is now amended as per data science, artificial intelligence, or whatsoever you explain in the webinar? For quantitative research, sir.
Yeah, so I think it's talking about quantitative research and the APA format,
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Harini.
I didn't quite understand the question. Did anybody else?
Chandrasekhar, can you please repeat your question once again?
Yeah, elaborate a little more. Paraphrase it again.
Yeah. I repeat the question. Ma'am, I mostly use the writing skill concern. Like I use the various articles and various examples and hypotheses during writing the quantitative research. And then I face the problem of APA style and whatever you explain, like the new data science concepts. So is there any new style formats to write the this quantitative research steps?
Okay. Yeah. So I think he's asking about a new style of APA, to write the quantitative research. That's what he's talking about. Though it's completely different from the current subject, correct. But nonetheless, if you would like to attempt, Harini.
I really don't have an answer as such because I'm still thinking, but it's got me thinking. So probably I will definitely, it has triggered a question in my mind as well. I'll try and find out and come back, but I'm sorry, I don't have an answer I don't know if Harshita or Kartik has.
Sure.
So
Sure.
if I
Sure.
understand correctly, and again, I'm in the same boat as Harini. So from whatever I understand, so APA format is used typically when we write research papers or we're doing citations.
Yes.
And I know a lot of AI-enabled tools are there to which can mine through data to do a citation check, that if all the sources you have mentioned actually exist, and they can make sure that you've done the annotations properly and that citation is there or not, and you haven't done any sort of copy paste without citation. Those kind of tools are available. Grammarly, most of us have also seen, but a more sophisticated version of Grammarly is used by data scientists for academic research. But there is no new format as such for it, which I am aware of. But a lot of people have created citation checking tools per se, which are AI enabled, because they have to mine through the entire database of research articles, publications, and journals. So that's available, Chandrasekhar. But
Yeah,
I'm
correct,
not
sir.
A
I
aware.
got,
lot
sir.
of
Yes,
tools are available for
Mm.
checking plagiarism, for
Correct.
checking authenticity, for checking for correctness, all of
Yeah.
that. Those tools, have plenty of them available, and that is why now, while on the one hand plagiarism is increasing, on the other hand it's also getting observed and caught. So it's there. But apart from that, I have nothing else.
I think I'll just add, in the space of where AI is getting used more in the legal space, because they do a lot of referencing, cross-referencing and stuff like that. So that may be an area you may want to research and see if there are tools in that space of AI which may be helpful. That's the only thing.
Yeah, got. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks, sir. Yeah.
Yes, Chandra. Thank you. Thank you for your question. Yes, so I think with this, we have, Dr. GP Rao sir also here. So, sir, would you like to ask a particular question,
No. Lots of learning today. I always take it with a little honey and lemon. I consider all this as additional intelligence and augmented intelligence. So the moment I take it like this, so I will not have that reservation of that, why should I replace a reality with artificiality? So all my problems get resolved. So far as the controls are concerned, so how do you see in our life? We have got three things. One is a dictate, the other is a barter, the other is a self management. So if all the three combinations will always be there. If you trust more, self-discipline will increase. That is the premise actually. If you control more, the trust levels will come down. That is the premise. We are not saying there should not be any norms. We are not saying there is no boundaries. No one said that. But then the element of trust should be more. So like love should be there, but it can be tough love. It can be tough love. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, sir. So with this, I would just like ask the panelists now to kindly summarize your key message to the participants at large, because we are recording this session also, so it will be available to many people going forward. So what is your message on the theme for the day? Karthik, can we start with you? A quick one.
Sure. My view is that technologies like AI are going to come sooner than you expect. So prepare, plan in advance, make sure that you upskill and reskill yourself so you remain relevant in your organization and you're able to take up a bigger role and work with this technology in a collaborative way. One of the questions was asked by Dr. Benwit, which got lost in the conversation, was transition from industry 4.0 to 5.0. 5.0 is all about human-machine interface, where we are working collaboratively with machines and co-developing the future of the workplace. So I think of that format, that the workplace is human-machine interface, co-working with the technologies and bots, and reimagine your role and prepare in advance to remain relevant in that workplace.
Yes, Harini, I think would like to pitch in with your
Sure.
final comments. Yeah.
Sure. So I think preparedness for shaping the future, very simply put, is in order to be able to adapt to new things, new technologies, to be able to become more adaptive, creating a psychologically safe space, building a spirit of entrepreneurship in individuals. Spirit of entrepreneurship simply means more accountability, saying that every individual in the company, right down to the junior most person, feels that he or she is the CEO. Building the spirit of entrepreneurship, creating the freedom of experimentation, helping people to put their minds in the customer's mind so that they're able to find common ground, deliver consistently on that, reduce unnecessary controls, bust bureaucracy, I mean to say. And how you do that is by treating adults as adults. I think if we start with treating adults as adults, being absolutely transparent and reducing power distance and symbols of power, which has crept into our system over a long period of time, it becomes very easy for us to deal with a multi-generational workforce, 4 generations under one roof, not one roof under the sky, because they could be anywhere now, talking of remote work and hybrid work. I think treating adults as adults is one of the most important skills, and it's important for each one of us to recontract our roles in our organizations to imbibe these behaviors in us. And if we do that, adopting technology would become very, very easy, because trust is the underlying key.
Absolutely, I think that trust plays a huge role, and it is the foundation of everything. I would say. Harshita, over to you with a quick thought.
So, Yashwant, final thoughts on the theme, which is on innovation and technology for HR. HR is the only thing I know that I've ever done. Is that I think it's let's just not think anything is going to come and replace us. There's a role that we play in organizations. Technology and innovation is going to reinforce our roles and make it stronger. I think let's, with open arms, adopt them. I know there are questions on boundaries and what it'll know and how it can encroach. All of that can also be solved with technology, right? So I think as HR people, we should look at it as a huge opportunity to have something which is going to really strengthen our roles. Our roles, as Harini and Karthik said, are going to be very different. So we should get ready for them with a very positive outlook towards it, because the more positive we're going to be the ones who are going to bring this change into the organizations, right? Our managers, our leaders, right? And the more and more we are going to adopt it and be, faster in adoption of it. So that's one piece I'd like to say. And the second one I'd like to say, and always say this, is that it's HR's opportunity to use technology, data, insight, to today be able to, because it will let us, predict trends and really play that role of not following a business leader and doing things for what their strategy, but rather telling them, this is going to be your people landscape and technology landscape, how you are going to leverage that to build maybe a different business, or how you're going to strengthen your business with the phenomenons and the trends that exist. That power will come to us, right? And as HR, I think that's a very important thing we should be able to use into our roles and to strengthen our own roles within the organization. That's really what I think we can do with it.
Yes, thank you, Harshita. And I think, I would just like to say that, technology and innovation, it is absolutely imperative, right? And very important from the organizational efficiency, efficacy perspective. But I think, the key factor is going to be about the digital transformation, how we as professionals can, change or maybe shift that mindset towards continuous learning and, keeping our eyes open to the technology as an enabler and, to further pursue our overall human intelligence. I think that's how I put it. And second thing I would like to say is that we also need to, focus upon the human-to-human connect. That's really critical, because end of the day, it's all about people, and people are the ones who drive the business, right? So really important from that perspective. I think you shared fantastic, takeaways for everyone, collaboration, you're looking at, the ethical transparency part of the data and the AI part, right? How, we as organizations can, open to those challenges, right? So with this, we come to the end of this discussion. But before we end the session, we would like to ask, our respected Vice Chairman of NIPM Delhi NCR Chapter, Dr. Shankar Goenka sir, who is the MD of Wow Factors India Limited. He's a motivational and an international speaker. Dr. Shankar Goenka sir, thank you so much for joining. May I request now you to kindly propose a vote of thanks to our fantastic speakers for the day. Over to you,
Thank
sir.
you very much. Thank you very much, sir. It was a great session. It was nice hearing all the respected speakers, and we would like to congratulate and thank you very much for sparing your valuable time. Thanks, Chairman, sir. Thank you, Chauhan Saab, and good luck to all my great participants and great speakers. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Shankar Goenka sir, for your vote of thanks. Wonderful to have you, Kartik. I would like to once again, express my gratitude to each one of you, to Karthik Sharma, Harini, Sreenivasan, Harshita, Chaudhary for kindly associating with the NIPM Delhi NCR chapter. And this conversation must continue. And we promise that this under this new initiative, which is about the celebration of leadership, empowerment, agility, and the people at large, right? So we are definitely looking forward to bring in more and more content which is going to inspire and democratize the knowledge and the learning for everyone. So with this, I thank once again each one of you, and Mukesh Jain sir would like to say something.
Oh, my heartiest congratulations and thank you very much, Yashwant.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Give a big round of applause to our very eminent panelists. It was a wonderful session, a lot of takeaways and learnings. Thank you very much, Harini ji, Harshita ji, and Kartik. Thanks, Yashwant. Thanks, Dr. Rao. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much and good night. Thanks, Alok ji.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alok ji.
Thank you so much, Alok.